The Nabucco West Pipeline is a proposed natural gas pipeline from the Turkish-Bulgarian border to Austria. It is a modification of the original Nabucco pipeline project, which was to run from Erzurum in Turkey to Baumgarten and Dermarch in Austria. The aim of the Nabucco pipeline is to diversify the natural gas suppliers and delivery routes for Europe, thus reducing European dependence on Russian energy. The original project was backed by several European Union member states and by the United States, and was seen as a rival to the South Stream pipeline project. The main supplier was expected to be Iraq, with potential supplies from Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, and Egypt. The main supply for the Nabucco West was to be Shah Deniz gas through the proposed Trans-Anatolian gas pipeline. The project is being developed by a consortium of 6 companies. Preparations started in 2002 and the intergovernmental agreement between Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary and Austria was signed on 13 July 2009. After an announcement of the construction of TANAP, the consortium has submitted the Nabucco West project. Construction of Nabucco West depended on the gas export route decision by the Shah Deniz Consortium. After Shah Deniz Consortium decision to prefer the Trans-Adriatic pipeline over Nabucco, Nabucco's shareholders have to decide the next steps for the project. Motivation. The Nabucco project is backed by the European Union and the United States. In the Trans-European Networks Energy Program, the Nabucco pipeline is designated as a project of strategic importance. An objective of the project is to connect the European Union better to the natural gas sources in the Caspian Sea and the Middle East regions. The project has been driven by the intention to diversify its current energy supplies, and to lessen European dependence on Russian energy, the biggest supplier of gas to Europe. The Russia-Ukraine gas disputes have been one of the factors driving the search for alternative suppliers, sources, and routes. Moreover, as per the European Commission, Europe's gas consumption is expected to increase from 502 billion cubic meters in 2005 to 815 billion cubic meters in 2030, which would mean Russia alone would not be able to meet the demand. Southeastern Europe is important as many of the regions are heavily dependent on Russian gas imports. Nabucco aims to diversify the gas supply to increase competition and security. Simon Pirani, Senior Research Fellow, Oxford Institute for Energy Studies, presented to delegates at the Ukrainian Energy Forum in 2013 a list of prices from the Russian newspaper Izvestia. What they show is the prices at which Russian gas is being purchased in different European countries, and this tells quite a simple story. If you're in Eastern Europe, and you are quite heavily dependent on Russian gas, you pay more than $500 per TCM. If you're in the UK, where we have a pretty much complete domination of gas-to-gas market, you pay $300, or $370 plus in Germany, which is somewhere in between. History. Preparations for the Nabucco project started in February 2002 when first talks took place between Austrian OMV and Turkish BOTAS. In June 2002, 5 companies signed a protocol of intention to construct the Nabucco pipeline. The protocol followed by the cooperation agreement in October 2002. The name Nabucco comes from the same famous opera of Giuseppe Verdi that the 5 partners had listened to at the Vienna State Opera after this meeting. In December 2003, the European Commission had awarded a grant in the amount of 50% of the estimated total eligible cost of the feasibility study, including market analysis and technical, economic and financial studies. On 28 June 2005, the joint venture agreement was signed by 5 Nabucco partners. The ministerial statement on the Nabucco pipeline was signed on 26 June 2006 in Vienna. On 12 September 2007, Josias van Aartsen was nominated by the European Commission as the Nabucco project coordinator. In February 2008, German RWE became a shareholder of the consortium. On the 11th of June 2008, the first contract to supply gas from Azerbaijan through the Nabucco pipeline to Bulgaria was signed. The president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, confirmed on 29 January 2009 that Azerbaijan was planning to at least double its gas production in the coming 5 years to supply the pipeline. On 12 April 2009, the Minister of Energy of Turkey, Hilmi Güler, confirmed that Turkey is ready to sign a deal, provided that Turkey gets 15% of the natural gas to be carried through the Nabucco pipeline. On 27 January 2009, the Nabucco Summit held in Budapest. On 24–25 April 2009, the Nabucco pipeline was discussed, among other energy issues, at the High-Level Energy Summit in Sofia, and on 8 May 2009, at the Southern Corridor Summit in Prague. The intergovernmental agreement between Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary and Austria was signed by 5 prime ministers on 13 July 2009 in Ankara. The European Union was represented at the ceremony by the President José Manuel Barroso and the Commissioner for Energy Andris Piebalgs. And the United States was represented by Special Envoy for Eurasian Energy Richard Morningstar and Ranking Member of the United States Senate Committee on Foreign Relations Senator Richard Lugar. Hungary ratified the agreement on 20 October 2009. Bulgaria ratified the agreement on 3 February 2010. Romania ratified the agreement on 16 February 2010. Turkey became the final country ratifying the agreement on 4 March 2010. The legal framework set up by the Intergovernmental Agreement was strengthened further with the signing in 2011 of the project support agreements between Nabucco and each of the transit countries. The main elements of the PSAs are the affirmation of an advantageous regulatory transit regime under EU law, the protection of the Nabucco pipeline from potential discriminatory changes in the law, and support for legislative and administrative actions for the further implementation of the project. In May 2012, the Nabucco Consortium submitted a Nabucco West proposal to the Shah-Deniz Consortium. On 10 January 2013, Nabucco International and Shah-Deniz Partners signed a funding agreement. According to the agreement, Shah-Deniz Partners will take a 50% stake in the project if chosen as an export route for the Shah-Deniz gas. On 3 March 2013, Nabucco International signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the TANAP Consortium. However, on 28 June 2013, Shah-Deniz Consortium announced that it had chosen the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline over Nabucco for its gas exports, prompting OMV CEO Gerhard Ross to regard the Nabucco project as over-route. The original 3,893 km long pipeline was to run from Ayıboz in Turkey via Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary to Baumgarten and Dermarch, a major natural gas hub in Austria. In Ayıboz, it would be joined with 2 feeder lines, one connecting to Georgia in the north, and the other connecting to Iraq in the southeast. It would be fed also from the Tabriz-Ankara pipeline. 2,730 kilometers of the pipeline was to be laid in Turkey, 412 kilometers in Bulgaria, 469 kilometers in Romania, 384 kilometers in Hungary, and 47 kilometers in Austria. The modified Nabucco West is to start from the Turkey-Bulgaria border and further to follow the original route. The total length of Nabucco West is 1,329 kilometers, with the following distances in each of the below countries: Bulgaria, 424 kilometers; Romania, 475 kilometers; Hungary, 383 kilometers; Austria, 47 kilometers. From Turkey, The original Nabucco pipeline was proposed to enter Bulgaria, and after running 76 kilometers in parallel to the existing gas system, connect to the Bulgarian national gas network at the compressor station of village Lozanets in Yambol province. After crossing the Balkan Range, the pipeline will head 116.3 kilometers in a northwesterly direction. After reaching the national northern half-ring, it will run 133 kilometers in parallel to the existing east-west gas line and continue 86.5 kilometers to northwest before reaching the Danube at Oryahovo. In Bulgaria, Nabucco will have interconnections with the national gas network and will have two off-take systems, compressor stations and pig stations. In Romania, the pipeline will be crossing into the country under the Danube. The route on the Romanian territory will go from southwest to northwest, its southwestern starting point being located at the Danube crossing point upstream the port of Becet, and the northwestern end point being located north of Nădlac. The pipe will follow the southwestern border of Romania and will travel through the counties of Dolj, Metintai, Kara, Severin, Timiș, and Arad. The pipeline will cross 11 protected sites, 2 national parks, 3 natural reserves, and 57 watercourses, namely major rivers such as Jiu, Coști, Cerna, Belorica, Timiș, Bega, and Mureș, as well as their tributaries. The terrain is rockier in Romania and mainly constituted of limestone. This section is 469 kilometers long. Polish gas company PGNiG was studying the possibility of building a link from the Nabucco gas pipeline to Poland. Technical features. The Nabucco West is to be exempt from regulated third-party access, including tariff regulation, for 25 years. Its proposal states a capacity of 10 billion cubic meters per year. This capacity will be scaled up to 23 billion cubic meters to compensate for an anticipated increase in demand. Nabucco West will offer 50% of its transport capacity to third parties outside of the shareholders. Construction. The Nabucco project is included in the EU Trans-European Energy Network Programme, and a feasibility study for the Nabucco pipeline has been performed, under an EU project grant. The front-end engineering and design services of the pipeline, including the overall management of the local feed contractors, the review of the technical feasibility study, route confirmation, preparation of the design basis, hydraulic studies, overall SCADA and telecommunications, GIS, and preparation of tender packages for the next phase, was managed by UK-based consultancy Penspen. Starting from the 14th of December 2011, Worley Parsons was appointed as owner's engineer. On the 28th of January 2013, it was announced that a refeed for the Nabucco West project is being conducted by Saipem following the selection of the project as the Central European route by the Ardennes Consortium in June last year. This work will build upon existing engineering work already completed for the Nabucco Classic route. According to Reinhard Micek, managing director of Nabucco Gas Pipeline International GmbH, construction of the pipeline was scheduled to begin in 2013 and would become operational by 2017. However, in June 2013, the Ardennes Consortium had chosen a rival project, Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, that has a route Turkey, Greece, Albania, Italy, and the future of Nabucco project is unclear. Financing. The pipeline's costs are undisclosed. However, Reinhard Micek said in late 2012 that the costs of Nabucco West would be far lower than €7.9 billion previously suggested. The final investment decision is expected in 2013. The sources of financing of the Nabucco project are not decided yet. As a commercial project, it will be financed 30% by the project's partners and the rest by commercial financial instruments. The European Commission has awarded an EU project grant in the amount of 50% of the estimated total eligible cost of the feasibility study and has also decided to allocate €200 million from the European Economic Recovery Plan. To receive this financing, this grant should be committed by the end 2010. At the Nabucco Summit held in Budapest on 27 January 2009, the heads of the European Investment Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development confirmed that they are prepared to provide financial backing for the project. On 5 February 2010, the EIB Vice President Matthias Kollatz-Arnen said that Nabucco Consortium is seeking up to €2 billion financing from the bank. The EIB is ready to participate in the financing of this project. However, the precondition is that the partner countries should legally approve the pipeline's transit in their countries. In September 2010, the consortium signed an agreement with the EIB, EBRD, and the International Finance Corporation, according to which the banks will conduct due diligence for a financing package of €4 billion. Up to €2 billion will be signed by the EIB, up to €1.2 billion by the EBRD, and up to €800 million by the IFC. All figures listed above relate to the original Nabucco project. Updated figures for Nabucco West are undisclosed as of June 2013. Reinhard Mitschek, managing director of Nabucco, said in an interview with Natural Gas Europe in May 2013 that Nabucco is continuing to cooperate with the international financial institutions to ensure the bankability of the project. A large part of the legal due diligence has already been completed. A letter of intent has been signed with the IFIs most recently, in a separate interview in February 2013. Mitschek confirmed that all legal and regulatory framework approved for the original Nabucco project would remain valid for Nabucco West Project Company. The project is developed by the Vienna-registered Nabucco Gas Pipeline International GmbH. The managing director of the company is Reinhard Mitschek. The shareholders of the company are BOTAS, BAE, FGSZ, OMV, Transgas. Nabucco International is the owner of the 5 national Nabucco companies responsible for the operation and maintenance of the pipeline in their respective countries. RWE left the project and on 1 March 2013 OMV took over all of RWE's shares. On 28 May 2013, it was announced that GDF Suez, a French utilities provider, agreed to buy a 9% stake from OMV. Alternative projects. The main competitor for the original project was South Stream. In 2006, Gazprom proposed an alternative project, in competition with the Nabucco pipeline, that would involve constructing a second section of the Blue Stream pipeline beneath the Black Sea to Turkey, and extending this up through Bulgaria and Serbia to western Hungary. In 2007, instead, the South Stream project through Bulgaria, Serbia, Hungary and Slovenia to Austria and Italy was proposed. On 10 March 2010, CEO of Eni, a partner in South Stream, Paolo Scaroni proposed to merge Nabucco and South Stream projects to reduce investments, operational costs and increase overall returns. This proposal was rejected by Energy Minister of Russia Sergei Shmatko, saying that South Stream is more competitive than Nabucco, and that Nabucco and South Stream are far from being competitors. According to Nobuo Tanaka, former executive director of the International Energy Agency, the Nabucco pipeline would be more effective in increasing Europe's energy security than the South Stream project, as it would increase the number of gas suppliers. Even more important competitor became TANAP, which would follow the Nabucco's original route in Turkey. Therefore, Nabucco Consortium modified the project and sees the modified Nabucco West as a prolongation of TANAP into Central Europe. Nabucco West competed with the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline and the Interconnector Turkey-Greece-Italy projects. Also, liquefied natural gas was seen as competitor to Nabucco and to pipeline projects in general. Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania and Hungary are developing Azerbaijan-Georgia-Romania Interconnector project, which is proposed to transport Azerbaijani gas to Europe in form of LNG. Increasing availability of LNG from large gas-producing countries in the Middle East and Africa stresses the economic viability of pipelines. Controversial aspects. Economic and political aspects. The Nabucco pipeline will supply only a limited number of countries in Southeast and Central Europe. In 2013, it was confirmed by Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev that the pipeline would transport gas to a minimum of 16 European countries, including the gas hub in Baumgarten, Austria. The project has been criticized as uneconomic because there is no guarantee that there will be sufficient gas supplies to make it profitable. The Nabucco Gas Pipeline project, although initially intending to secure gas from Iraq and Iran, has readjusted its intentions given the current political and economic instabilities in the two countries. It will initially transport 10 BCM from the Shah gas field, with the ability to increase its capacity to 23 BCM as demand increases, along with supply. One region that could also supply additional gas is the Black Sea, with OMV and ExxonMobil announcing an enormous gas discovery in February 2012. Iran's Foreign Minister Manouchehr Mottaki has stated, speaking about the Nabucco pipeline without Iran's participation would amount to nothing but a pipeline void of gas. Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin has made similar remarks. The deputy chairman of the Russia's State Duma Energy Committee, Ivan Grachev, has questioned the viability of the Nabucco project and sees it as an attempt to put pressure on Russia. This is supported by Russia's gas deals with Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, which by some observers has been seen as an attempt to reserve potential Nabucco supplies. Azerbaijan has stated that the gas will be transported only through those routes which would be commercially most attractive. Also, the opening of the Central Asia-China gas pipeline and the agreements to build the South Stream pipeline has been seen as the end of Nabucco project. However, before the raise of project's costs and the proposal of modified project, RWE had claimed that the transportation of natural gas through the Nabucco pipeline would be cheaper than through South Stream or other alternative pipelines. According to RWE, the transportation of 1,000 cubic meters of gas from Shah field to Europe will cost through the Nabucco pipeline €77 versus €106 through the South Stream pipeline. Russian opposition to the pipeline stems from their monopoly over European gas supplies. The pipeline would lead to cheaper, more secure gas supplies for the whole of Europe, due to the decreased influence of the oil-linked gas price. This would provide economic benefits to the EU with cheaper energy, helping the Union become more competitive. NGOs have also criticized the fact that the pipeline results in effective support of the authoritarian regime in Turkmenistan, which undermines the European Union's policy of human rights promotion. Fossil fuels. Some NGOs criticize the EIB and EBRD for their willingness to finance a fossil fuel project, claiming that it goes against the November 2007 resolution on trade and climate change passed in the European Union Parliament. The resolution calls for the discontinuation of public support via export credit agencies and public investment banks for fossil fuel projects. Non-governmental organizations also show disapproval due to the public bank's decision to be lenient to Turkmenistan human and civil rights conditions. Security aspects. Concerns have been raised about the safety of the project. Gas for the Nabucco pipeline coming from Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan will have to pass near areas of instability in the South Caucasus.